Hello, everybody. eBloodyCandy here. You guys are probably wondering why I sound so silky smooth right now. Well, we I was having some microphone problems, and we have now resolved said microphone problems. So, apologies for the weird echoing in this episode, and on with the show.
On this episode of This is Game Boy, we get as stoned as a gurgle.
It's pronounced gargoyle, Mo.
What?
It is gargoyle, not gurgle.
Gargoyle.
Gar.
Gargoyle. Gargoyle. Okay, I got it. Okay, I'll try this again. On this episode of This is Game Boy, we get as stoned as a gurgle. God damn!
Welcome, everybody, to episode 3 of This is Game Boy podcast. I am eBloodyCandy with my very awesome host, Mo. How's it going, Mo?
Hello, I'm half asleep.
Yeah, I'm suffering heavily from allergies right now, so this is going to be a great episode for you all.
Yeah, a lot of sniffling, a lot of coughing, a lot of me zoning out and not saying anything for a few minutes, so great stuff.
So, what have you been up to, Mo?
Well, I have been going back to my Game Boy System challenge. People have been following me for that. They know that I had beaten 100 games, 99 games when I started. But for some reason, mostly because I'm an idiot, I did not record any of them or highlighted any of them. So I'm going back through all of those, try to get a highlight of them down. I'm almost through. I think I'm at 15 games left, not including Boxel, which I kind of do not want to redo because that's just a horrible long game for me, at least. But yeah, I've been doing mostly that. We did start researching newer games for the next Tiny 10. That's Tiny 10 8. I think we got half of the list down so far, so that's pretty good. Besides that, I've been trying to play more Octopad, but it's getting boring for me, sadly.
I can relate.
Yeah, I'm having fun with Ys 8 though. That's a really great action RPG for Switch. And I also bought Hello Neighbor, which might have been a mistake because that game is very, very poorly programmed, but it is very fun to see what kind of shenanigans happen just because the game is so badly programmed. So yeah, that's what I've been doing for my Afraid Train streams, where I play through spoopy games. But yeah, the story of Hello Neighbor is interesting, but the game itself is like a complete mess, and I would not recommend people buying it, at least at full price.
Is that Hello Neighbor game like the game where like you start off in a house and you like go into your neighbor's house, and if you get caught it's supposed to like scare you?
Yeah, that's exactly
it.
Yeah.
I've watched a few of those games.
Yeah, it's like the premise is cool, yeah, but it plays horribly. It's made in Unity, which is always a gamble. Most games I've played that are made in Unity do not work properly, but this one is absolutely horrible when it comes to gameplay. One of the Steam reviews, I got a PS4 version, doesn't really matter, but one of the Steam reviews just read, wow, the alpha version worked better than this one. That's very weird to hear, but yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing. So what have you been up
to? Finished up Midwest Speed Fest a week or two ago now. Last weekend, I believe. 2 weekends ago. Ran Kirby Street by Extra Mode there as the opening day for Saturday. That was cool. It was a cool little convention. Midwest Speed Fest was just a very, very small part of the whole con. It was kind of focused around fighting games. The entire con was. So like next door there was like Smash Brothers and there's Street Fighter and things of that nature. So you could hear people screaming through the walls and stuff. And obviously there was cosplay in there, and it was weird, and it was an experience for sure. I would go back again assuming I get another game into Midwest Speed Fest. But yeah, it was an experience. If you're around the Midwest area, United States, definitely check it out. It's kind of cool. Um, other than that, I got 2 games into Big Bad Game-a-thon.
Hooray!
I got Cliffhanger for the Game Boy in.
Oh boy, that's a bad one for sure.
Yeah, and I got Sailor Moon in for the Game Boy.
Oh, that's not a bad one though. I mean, it's not really a game either, but
Right. But so I have to get ready for those. That's like in a month, I think. So the only game I'm nervous about that is Cliffhanger because of the cave boss being just absolutely impossible in that version. Outside of that, trying to trudge through Octopath, I ran into a very similar issue to you where I just got to the point where like it's just such a heavy grind right now where I kind of don't want to play it.
exactly.
Friday I picked up We Happy Few, which is a horror game. So we've been playing through that, and then the WoW expansion comes out Monday night for us here. So I'm pretty busy in terms of like a whole lot of stuff. So trying to get back to Game Boy, trying to keep a regular schedule on stream, trying to have a life.
Yeah, I'm usually not home during the weekend. Like normally we record on Saturday, a little behind the scenes stuff. But again, yesterday I was gone all day, so we had to do it on Sunday. Yeah, it's been pretty. Yeah, my schedule has been filled out a lot lately. Normally it goes better once the summer is over, so that makes it easier for us to record. But yeah, for now I'm super busy for sure.
Yeah, summers are usually busy for me, especially this year. I've been in like 5 or 6 marathons this year already, and it's just like I said I was going to be done after Midwest Speed Fest because I didn't expect to get any games into Big Bad Game-a-thon, and then I got 2 games into Big Bad Game-a-thon. So I'm like, well, I guess I have one more marathon to do now. So
Yeah, and Barbie Game Girl got in as well, I've read. Are there
yeah,
any?
Barbie Game Girl got in.
Are there any other Game Boy games already, or are
I
those
don't
the
remember
only?
off the top of my head, but I think John is racing somebody in Barbie Game
Oh
Girl.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always fun to see. That's also one of those games that's not really a game.
Maybe they should have you race and just you break the game again.
Yeah. Sadly, I don't know how to break the game, but it could happen for sure. Yeah.
All right, everyone. When we come back, we'll talk about Gargoyle's Quest 2, not Gurgle's Quest, and yeah, we'll talk about the ins and outs and the plot of the game. Be right back.
Alright, and we're back. So let's dive into this week's game, or this episode's game, because this is bi-weekly. But this game is Makai-Mura Gaiden, the Demon Darkness, or as most people know it, actually as Gargoyle's Quest for NES. But this also got a release on Game Boy, actually. Something that a lot of people actually do not know. Mostly because it was only released in Japan, and it would have had a US release or a European release. For some reason, it got cancelled. From what I've heard, the NES version actually sold very poorly. Definitely compared to like the first game that it was on Game Boy, normal Gargoyle's Quest. And probably due to poor sales of the NES version, they decided just to not release it in the US or in Europe anymore. Then again, this is a Capcom game. Capcom is really weird when it comes to releasing games. If you have been following stuff like all the Mega Man games that came out recently, all the collections and stuff like that, they only release physical copies in the US. There's none in Europe. It's driving me completely insane because I love Mega Man and I just love to have physical copies. but for some reason they're just denying it because they think it's not popular in Europe at all for some reason. But yeah, that's Capcom. They really do some weird stuff in the background when it comes to that.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised Capcom hasn't released a collection for Ghosts and Goblins, because I mean, Firebrand, who is the main character of Gargoyle's Quest, is also in Ghosts and Goblins as well. And it's not like Ghosts and Goblins was a small one-hit wonder for Capcom. I mean, it started off as an arcade cabinet, then it ported to the NES and Super NES and Genesis, and we had the spin-off of Gargoyle's Quest for NES, Famicom, and Game Boy. Like, it wasn't just a small one-hit wonder. Like, this was a huge series from Capcom.
Yeah, the latest that they actually did with the series in its whole, not just Gargoyle's Quest, but also like Ghosts and Goblins, was to release the version on PSP. I think that's considered to be the third game in the series. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, Ghouls and Goblins, Ghosts and Goblins, Gargoyle's Quest, they have been long forgotten ever since actually the final Gargoyle's Quest game, Demon Quest on Super Nintendo. And for me, it's a series I would love to see back again. Was kind of hoping they maybe put Firebrand in Smash or something to, I don't know, maybe liven it up again, make people interested in it again.
I mean, they're bringing back Rare's bringing back Battletoads. Like,
Mhm.
Capcom can bring back Ghosts and Goblins.
Yeah, like I find Gargoyle's Quest to be the better of the two series. Well, this is a spin-off series, of course, of Ghouls and Goblins. But yeah, I would love to see more games like that again. I don't know how they would like actually do it. Go back to 2D platforming like they did with these games, or maybe even make a 3D game in the style of Maximo. People remember those two games, which was kind of a spiritual successor to the Ghost and Goblins series, which I also loved. They were really great games.
Yeah, I've never played any of those games at all. I never played Gargoyle's Quest 2 up until within the last week or so for this episode. And I didn't have a chance to stream it at all just because of how busy I've been. So I played it on my old school Game Boy because that's all I had available to me. And it was interesting because I have played the NES version before.
All right.
So I kind of knew what I was getting into with the Game Boy version. the one thing I had an issue with, and I watched you play this on stream,
Yeah.
was that watching you play it on stream, it looked more crisp and you kind of knew where you were going.
Mm-hmm.
Versus when I played it on my Game Boy, I couldn't see anything almost at all. Like, it was very dark on the Game Boy.
Yeah, all right.
So depending on how you're playing the game, you're gonna perceive the game very differently. Like, me watching Mo stream this game, I'm like, oh, this game looks very similar to the NES version. And then I played it on my actual Game Boy, and I'm like, oh, this is actually really hard to see on.
Yeah, I never actually played the games on an actual Game Boy, so yeah, I can definitely see that. But it is basically completely the same game as the NES version. It has the same levels, it has the same setup, it has the same story, it has all the same areas. But for this version, they actually did include two brand new, dungeons, I guess you call it, where you can find some pickups that are not in the NES version. One of them provides you actually with a homing shot, which helps a lot for normal enemies. For bosses, not so much, but it is pretty useful. And the other one is like an astral body projection, which basically just makes you able to see part of the stage when you like float around as your astral form. It does not serve any other purpose because you just return to your body, of course, once you used it. But it does kind of help to see more of the stage because, of course, you're playing on a Game Boy screen, which is smaller, so you don't have the exact same overview as the NES version. But what I did find, I played both versions back to back just for research purposes, and I kind of found that even with a bigger screen on the NES, they still pretty much hide a lot of the places you have to go, which results in you having to make leaps of faith. So I think it's just something that is set for the game itself and not so much for which version you're playing on. They just want you to jump and hopefully reach something you can stand on.
Yeah, that was one thing I was actually very surprised with was having played both versions now, seeing that the overworld map and the actual like stage map, like the dungeons and the platforming sections, they stayed very true to like the size for the screen. Like the NES sprites were perfect size for the NES, and like the Game Boy sprites, in my opinion, were very good size for the size of the screen that the Game Boy had.
Definitely, yeah.
So it wasn't the old curse of, oh, we ported this game from the NES. These sprites are going to be 3 times bigger than they should be, and you're not going to be able to see where you're going in the game itself. It was actually proportioned very well for the Game Boy. It was just for me, it was just really hard to see things just because of the green on black action that I had to play with.
Yeah.
But I will say the homing shot was probably one of my favorite weapons in the game, just to get through the dungeons easier. I used Astral Body a couple of times. Again, I had a hard time seeing it, but it was kind of nice to see like what you were about to go up against. You know, like you get to a section of a dungeon you've never been in, you see a bunch of spikes or plant things. You're just like, well, I don't know what's about to come up. So you go into astral form and kind of see like how you kind of plan ahead of how you're going to maneuver through everything. You kind of plan your weapons ahead and whatnot too. So I thought that skill was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I just played the game so many times that I never actually used it because I'm so used to how the levels work and how they look. So for me, it was pretty useless, but definitely for newer players, that is something that can help you out a lot with the game. Not that it is hard or anything. I think it provides you with a great difficulty, actually. I even think the Game Boy version might be a little bit easier than the NES version. I'm not sure why, because definitely not because of the homing shot and the astral body, but something felt harder for me on the NES version, even though I also can play through it in 45 minutes or something.
It was all those colors, man. You're not used to it.
Yeah, probably.
Well, like the one thing I can attest to is with the leap of faith on the Game Boy, before you get the astral shots thing, the leap of faith, like they're there and they're terrifying. But if you've played like the first Gargoyle's quest, you kind of understand how to take those leap of faith already. So just take the jump and don't flutter your wings right away if you have limited power. Just jump and see where you're going to end up. And like if you're going to land in a safe place, then just land. But if you're going to land in like lava or spikes or just something bizarre, then use your wings to like try and fly over it. It is a little scary. It requires some reaction time, but pre-astral shot, that's what you kind of had to do. Is this you take this jump here and you kind of hope for the best. Versus once you get the astral shot, you can kind of see where these jumps are going to happen. You can kind of be like, okay, I need to save my wing power for this, or I can just jump off of this certain area of the platform and land here type deal. Just understanding how the momentum works in the game. But for me, I found the Game Boy version harder just because I couldn't see.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense, of course.
Yeah, I personally found the Game Boy version harder just because I couldn't see most of what I was doing, especially when I got into what's the dungeon with the mirrors, I think it was, or crystals, or
sure,
whatever. One of the final dungeons of the actual game. And I was just like, I can't see much. Everything looks the same. I'm like, okay, whatever. We just kind of like just trudge through it. But yeah, the similarities between the NES and the Game Boy version is just like it's almost a 1-to-1. It's almost a 1-to-1 comparison to the game, with the exception of like what Mo was saying, the two extra powers not in the NES version at all.
Yeah, and the extra dungeons, they're not like if I remember correctly, at least they're not like super intricate or anything. I think one is really just a puzzle you have to solve. Like you have to step on a switch and then it opens up the next part of the path. But they're interesting, but they weren't super needed, but it's fun. That's for if you want to play the Game Boy version, that there's a little bit more to do, at least, than in the NES version. Because usually it's the other way around, where they have to get rid of stuff for a Game Boy version because it just won't fit on the card or anything. So it's very fun.
It's a cool little addition for sure. Like the shots are nice and they're helpful for going through the stages, but they're not needed by any means. Like if you missed them in your playthrough, like it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, and I think the dungeons in this game are also easier to figure out than the dungeons in the first game. Actually, I think those are way more intricate than these ones. These ones are pretty much straightforward. Sometimes there's a split path, but nothing really makes you go into a dead end, which happens a lot during the first one. This one always really takes you where you need to go, basically. So I think they cleaned up their act from the first game a little bit. Also, something you have to keep in mind, in the first game when you went to the overworld, there were random encounters that just put you into a fight against like a random enemy, sometimes even a boss that you previously defeated. They are completely gone in this one, which makes it a lot easier to actually figure out where to go on the overworld map without having to worry for getting stopped every few steps. So that's also a very good thing they got rid of for the second game.
Yeah, the playing Gargoyle's Quest 1, excuse me, for Tiny 10 5, I think it was 5 or 6. I was like, oh, this game is kind of cool. Like I really enjoy the Ghosts and Goblins series. I knew I'd like Gargoyle's Quest 1. And then going through that first platforming stage and finding that first boss, like, all right, this is cool. And then I get to the overworld. I take 3 steps, I go right into a random encounter, and I'm like, but there's 2 zombies right over there. Why am I going into a random encounter? So with Gargoyle's Quest 1, not only do you have like the set sprites in the map that you have to fight to like open up a path or like to get through a certain area, you also have these random encounters, and they're exactly what we say. Like they're random. Like it could be every 3 steps, every 20 steps. Like it is awful. Talking to Roguelink about the speedrun, he's like, yeah, I'm never going back to that game again because of the random encounters. So coming to Gargoyle's Quest 2, I was actually expecting the exact same thing. I'm expecting some sprites up on the overworld map. I'm expecting to go into a random encounter every 15 steps. Like this is going to be the longest playthrough of Gargoyle's Quest a person has ever done. And to my surprise, like I got like halfway through the game, and I'm like, I don't think I've gotten a random encounter. I'm like, I'm either really lucky or this game just doesn't have them. So I did some research like while playing the game, and I realized I'm like, oh, this game doesn't have any random encounters. I'm like, this is fantastic.
Sure is.
I definitely would say Gargoyle's Quest 2 is easier than Gargoyle's Quest 1 for sure. I found the dungeons, even though I couldn't see much, I found the dungeons in Gargoyle's Quest 2 much easier than in Gargoyle's Quest 1. Just because in Gargoyle's Quest 1, if you took a wrong path, like it was either you took the very hard path or you took an easy path. And if you've never played the game, typically you take the hard path on accident and just get destroyed. So
yeah, and there was also an enemy in the first one, which kind of makes a return in this one as a mini boss. But that's like a horrible enemy that touches you once and you're dead at the start of the game, at least when you're not fully equipped yet. And in the final dungeon, you have to fight like 3 of them right before the door to the end of the stage, and it's just really hard to get through those guys. Luckily, this game doesn't have anything like that, really.
Yeah, thank God for that. That was the hardest part of Gargoyle's Quest 1, I think, was just some of the bosses. Like you could be end game with your powered up weapons, and like you'd get to some of those enemies, and like they just wouldn't die. It's like, oh, okay, so you got to take 20 shots to kill. Gotcha. Even though we're end of the game right now.
All right.
So, yeah, thankfully Gargoyle's Quest didn't have anything malicious like that throughout the game. But the one issue The one big issue I did have with it was the lag. Like there was a lot of lag in this game.
There sure is, but well, I played both of them back to back, like I said earlier, the NES version and the Game Boy version, and surprisingly, also the NES version suffers from that a lot. Like it's not that the Game Boy one is more laggy or anything. It might be in some points, of course, because well, it is a Game Boy, but it's very weird to see that it's just a part of the game in its whole part of the series, maybe. Do not remember how the Super Nintendo game played. It's been too long. But yeah, it feels like it's part of the game, really, on whichever system you play it on.
Yeah, I remember the NES thing. I remember the NES playthrough fairly well because I did that within like the last year. And I remember there being a lot of lag if you were flying and shooting at the same time because of all the sprite animations happening. And it just it that lag got obviously poured over to the Game Boy just because the Game Boy can only process so much in time, and if it was lagging on the NES, chances are it's going to lag on the Game Boy as well. Like it wasn't to the point where like it was so laggy, like it like stopped or like this went down to like 5 frames a second. You could It was unplayable, similar to like how Max was, which was our
Yeah.
previous episode, but it was definitely noticeable. Like if you be flying and shooting, also you can tell that the game is struggling to keep up a little bit, and it's like okay, well, just not do this as much anymore to try and get through the game as smooth as possible. Um, but I know, and going off to this now, speaking of dungeons, is I know that you were trying to find because if you looked at if for those of you who have ever played the game, at the bottom of the screen is your health meter and it stops at 7 hearts. And Mo asked if anyone knew if there was an eighth heart container. And after I beat the game, I went through and just tried to like run through everything that I could think of that I never touched, or like any of like the little like side areas of a dungeon I didn't explore at all. And I could not find a thing for an eighth heart container at all.
Yeah, me neither. I like literally went out of my way to talk to every single person in the game. I looked up some maps of the actual levels to see if there was an area that I was just not ever going to. There were, but there was nothing in there except for like an extra life or something like that. But it's really weird that you only have 7 hearts because you can definitely see there is room for an 8 heart. Maybe they just forgot to put it in there. It's just so strange. I even looked up Nintendo Power, the issue of that, but it only goes to the Mirror Palace, so I can't even see a complete walkthrough of it. But as far as I know, as far as everybody knows that I talked to, there is just not an 8 heart container. Maybe somebody dive into like the coding of the game or something and see if there actually is one. Would be really cool to know if there definitely is one or not. Not that you need it, but it's just weird that there's 7 and not 8.
Yeah, it's just like it leaves this weird white space after the 7th heart on your health bar. You're just like, this probably is supposed to be an eighth heart there, but we just can't find the eighth heart anywhere if it even is in the game. And that's kind of a fun thing about like older games as well, is that like some people that dive into the code will find unused sprites, unused music, like this unused levels from the game itself. It's really interesting to see like the programmers put this stuff onto the cartridge and it just didn't end up making the final cut, but yet it's still there if a person were to ever dump it and dig through the code itself. So yeah, who knows? Maybe there is an actual eighth heart container that was supposed to be in the game, but it just never got programmed into the final cut of the actual game itself.
Maybe someday we'll get confirmation that there is one or not.
Yeah, I mean the nice thing about this game is that there was a fan translation for it, so I know if I had to play it because I actually own the Gargoyle's Quest 2 cartridge. Like I have it here in my hand right now for when we talked about the box art. Um, if I actually tried to play it in Japanese first just to see like I wonder if I could actually do it on the actual original cartridge itself, and I don't think I made it to the first dungeon actually at all. And I was like, okay, well, time to get the the fan translation out and play it in a language I know. So so you can kind of see from there like how many people, like the people that love this series, like will go out of their way and like make make enhancements to these games. Like Gargoyle's Quest 2 for Game Boy only came out in Japan. Someone liked the game so much that they took the time to translate it to English and basically distribute it out for all of us to play. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to play this game from start to finish at all. I mean, there's a lot of games that are similar to that. What we call it Froggy Game. Froggy Game has a fan translation,
Yeah.
and that game is phenomenal. There's just a lot of games. Well, not a lot. There's a decent amount of games that have that fan base behind it, and it's always awesome to see. And I know some companies don't encourage it, but it's awesome to be able to play really good Game Boy games or really good games in general that we wouldn't be able to play before. So
Yeah, with the recent development from Nintendo actually taking down all ROM sites, this might prove to be a lot harder in the future. Even though
yeah,
this is the internet, so you can always find everything on the internet if you
this
just
is
look.
true.
Uh, but yeah, it's sad that they're like really getting rid of stuff like this, which is understandable from a legal perspective for sure.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. It's just part of gaming. It never really deprecated sales of games or anything like that. There has been studies about like piracy. They never actually put a downward spiral on sales for anything, not CDs, not movies, not games. So it should not get banned at all, just for
not the
preservation's
retro
sake.
market in a way.
Yeah, but yeah, of course it's not legal. We all know
Yeah,
that.
like I get it at a legality, but at the same time, as a fan of old retro games, it sucks. So like I get both sides of the whole thing, but yeah. I guess something we lightly touched on before we started digging into the actual Game Boy game was like Mo mentioned earlier, this game was released in 1993, April of '93, which uh, it was almost a year after Gargoyle's Quest 1 was released, I believe. I think GQ 1 was released in '92.
Yeah,
And the game was canceled in the US. Obviously, Capcom was the publisher and Sun L is the developer. But the music in the game, I'm going to butcher this name because I'm very bad with Japanese names. But Yuki Iwai, is that it?
I would
Yuki
guess
Iwa?
so. Yeah, Yuki or Iwai, but that doesn't make sense. I guess.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm really bad with Japanese names, and I apologize to anyone that is cringing right now at my enunciation of the name. But the music of the game I found to be it was good. Like, well, I'm not at it was good. It was what you expect from a Capcom game, and it was very reminiscent of Gargoyle's Quest 1.
Yeah,
I actually enjoyed the music quite a bit.
yeah. Like the music from the first game was actually composed by a different person. I don't have the name with me right now, but Yuki Iwai did the music for the second game only. And I think maybe even only the Game Boy version, if I read it correctly, which is weird because the NES has the same music, so maybe it just got discredited again, or I don't know. It's always weird with old games to actually find out who the composers are. So I was very happy that I could find this name at least.
Yeah, the music in the game, I don't. For me, like for me, music in video games, it's if it doesn't really grab my attention off the get go, I forget it very quickly. So think of games like when you're growing up, or have you played recently, like um, you have Castlevania. Like everyone knows Bloody Tears, or the fight against Dracula. Like people know music from Castlevania. It's very very memorable. Mega Man, Mario, Zelda. But then you have games that may not be as memorable, like Rebel Saber 2,
Yeah.
Rebel Saber 1. Not bad music, but it just doesn't stand out from, everything that you've memorized. Even if you want to go, in my opinion, newer games, like you have Halo, like most people know the intro to Halo. People you can hum it.
I don't. I really
Um,
don't.
really? Oh, you should. I do. I was a big Halo fan before 3 came out. Um, and then you have Final Fantasy. Like most people may not be able to like verbatim make the melody with their voice, but they understand the concept of the melody and can somewhat coherently make like an intro melody for Final Fantasy, just because Final Fantasy's intros are typically very similar to one another. Um, but the Ghosts and Goblins series as a whole, to me, the music never really like stood out to me. Like it has good music, but it's not music that I would walk around and hum because it doesn't stick out to me. So
Yeah, like a lot of these songs I cannot remember them by heart. But the moment I do start one of these games and I hear the first notes of a theme, I immediately know the song completely. But
yeah,
unlike a lot of songs that you can definitely listen to in the background on repeat, like some Mega Man games or stuff like that, um, songs that are really fun to just hum along and stuff like that. The especially Gargoyle's Quest, all the songs are pretty gritty and like yeah, like I don't know, they fit the game very well, but outside of the game, they're not really good songs to just listen to. You really have to be in the mood that you're actually playing the game. You're in a weird monster world trying to kill all the evil that is coming after you and stuff like that, and then it fits. But besides that, it's not really, well. It is good, but it's just not normal listening good, I guess.
yeah, like what Mo would say, the music is very fitting for the game. Like the bit of the eeriness, the bit of the grunge and graininess of the music fits very well for what Firebrain is going through, like these dungeons, the overworld, the various worlds that he's going through. It fits well, but it's just it's just songs that you wouldn't hop in your car and hum. It's just and same boat for me. Like I couldn't start the song humming unless I heard it, and once I hear it, then I can kind of just hum the entire tune until finish. Um, but I don't know, like like I said, the music's not bad. It's just it's not memorable enough to like hum on your own. If you're someone that plays the games a lot and really loves the series, maybe for you, you can just bust out one of the tunes, no problem. But for me, in a way, I wouldn't be able to do
Yeah, me
it.
neither. Definitely not. And I really love the songs when I'm playing the game, so it's kind of weird.
This is really weird to me because I'm looking at the box art right now and I'm looking at my game cartridge right now.
Yeah.
The box art and the game cartridge are nothing alike.
Okay.
So Mo and I have access to the box art right now. I don't Mo, you don't own a cart of this, right?
I don't believe so, no. Maybe I can actually let me just see if GameFAQs has a picture of the thingy.
Well, I have my cart right here in my hand. So looking at my cartridge right now, the background is white with, assuming it looks like red fire or red lava spewing in the background. And mind you, this is not detailed red. Like this is just like your natural orange red streaks going up. Excuse me. And then you have a silhouette of Firebrand, which is the gargoyle. Um, and his wings are out, and then inside of the silhouette, I'm assuming it says Gargoyle's Quest 2 or something of the nature. It's in Japanese, starting with blue text and yellow text, and Firebright is smiling. And then underneath it says the demon darkness.
Yeah.
So like on the box art, it has that same silhouette with the words "in the deep and darkness" on it on the box art, but they pretty much just cut that out and put it onto the cartridge without anything else in the background. Like, it is one of the most simplest backgrounds I have seen on a Japanese cartridge. But the box art is really, really busy. Like, the box art has
Yeah.
all of these enemies on it and all of these like bosses. Like, it is just like, it is literally an anime poster. It's what the box art looks like.
It really is. Yeah. I'm gonna look up the NES. Oh yeah, there it is.
Well,
I
yeah,
see it right.
depending on which one the NES is, like the NES English version, I guess, is pretty dumb looking.
Yeah, it's pretty derpy.
Pretty dumpy looking. The Japanese one's nice.
Yeah, it's a little less crowded than the Game Boy version for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still it actually depicts the same thing that is on the Game Boy cover, but it's just a little less crowded, I guess.
It's a bigger canvas to work
Yeah.
with. Like, I feel like, because I looked at the NES one before we started recording, and it looks like they literally just took the NES cover and just like crushed it into this Game Boy
Yeah,
cover. So
definitely. I do really like the Game Boy cover art, though. I think it's really cool. I'm looking at the card, which is pretty bland, actually, just a logo.
yeah, like looking at the cover, like the cover is probably one of the better ones that we've looked at so far on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's the best one that we've looked at on the podcast. Let's just be fair on that. But yeah, like you have Firebrand. Okay, so like the first thing that stands out to me that's weird is they have Firebrand in the middle,
Right.
like kicking Sonic the Hedgehog, the gold version of Sonic the Hedgehog, and it looks like he's about to get grabbed by this pink worm thing. But like right below Firebrand is the silhouette of Firebrand.
Yeah.
So you have like two Firebrands like right on top of each other almost, right away in the center of the box art. That's the one thing that stands out to me that's weird. Like, you can probably have gotten away with your title sequence on the box without having the silhouette of Firebrand in front of the real Firebrand.
Yeah, I guess. Well, they just really wanted to use the logo, I guess. And then it's weird that you see two Firebrands there. But it might also loosely be tied to the actual plot of the game, of course. Like, if anybody has played Gargoyle's Quest 1 or 2, it's all about this legend that there's like a red gargoyle instead of a green one, which they totally screwed up, of course, for the box art for the first game on Game Boy. They made him green. It's kind of like Kirby, where they made him white instead of pink.
White.
But yeah, you're supposed to be a red gargoyle, which pretty much is a legendary hero that will save the entire world. And it slowly becomes clear that, well, you are that guy. So maybe it's the shadow. Maybe is just from the legend, and they don't know who he is, and like the actual Firebrand in the background is just there, of course, because he's the protagonist of the game. I don't know.
But I mean, above Firebrand, you have this evildoer.
Yeah, that's Prager.
Two evildoers. They're kind of like hovering over him with like their claws and mouths open, like ready to attack, while he's drop kicking a few enemies in the front there. It's a really interesting cover. Like I said, like imagine an anime poster or like an anime DVD cover, VHS cover, whatever, and you pretty much have the box art for Gargoyle's Quest 2.
Pretty much, yeah, definitely. They do like stuff like that in Japan, of course, so that's normal. What I do find to be a little bit stupid for this cover is that weird sun thing in the upper left with the CGB08. I have no idea what it means, but it's kind of weird that it's there and it covers up a part of
Japanese games love doing that. Like, let me just grab this. So I grabbed my copy of Froggy Game that I have in the box. And the Froggy Game doesn't have it, but it has it has numbers and stuff on it, very similar to that as well. And the cartridge has that stupid little something in the corner as well. I don't know if this is just like a Japanese thing. I have to do some more research on that, but that appears a lot on Japanese Game Boy games, and I don't understand why. I don't know if it's like a serious thing, like this was the 8th game released that year or something like that. But a lot of Japanese games have it.
Yeah, or like an ESRB rating or something from Japan. I don't know what it is, but it always covers up a lot of what's
Yeah,
supposed to be on
it
there.
covers up like a nice chunk of the actual box art. It's kind of obnoxious and it's kind of interesting at the same time because like PAL and US games don't have that kind of mark. Like you can see the entire box art basically, unless someone decides to just put something over it. But for Japan, they purposely like have this thing in the box, like on the label, on the box, and everywhere. It's interesting. It's a little weird, but it's interesting at the same time.
Yeah, they did have bigger. I guess they're not bigger boxes than the European or US.
No, they're smaller.
Yeah, they're lengthier at least.
No, they're the same size.
Really? Wait.
Yeah, I'm holding a Game Boy. For me, in a way, I have Froggy Game complete in box, and I have Monopoly complete in box right here, right next to me. And putting them one in front of the other. Froggy Game is the same height as the U.S. Monopoly box. However, the U.S. Monopoly box, you know how the spine says Game Boy, like the big Game Boy. That goes past the Froggy Game box. So that's how much more box that the U.S. has compared to the Japanese.
Yeah, but they still they still just wasted it on just saying Game Boy. Oh.
Yeah, and the longer boxes I do have longer boxes of Game Boy games, but they're for Game Boy Color. So I don't know if Game Boy Color boxes packaging changed for old Game Boy or not. Yeah, weird stuff.
Yeah, we always go on a bender with these cover things. It's incredible. We keep going about the cover for some reason.
Well, they're always cool because like depending on the region, they're going to change because different artists get involved. Depending on the region, like the art is obviously going to be styled towards the actual people that are going to buy this game. Like if I was in Japan and loved anime, like seeing this cover art, I would have adored it. But if I saw this cover art in America in 1993, I would have been like, "What the hell is this? I'm not going to buy this." You know, like there's just things like that. Just like what Americans, Europeans, and the Japanese want. You know, all three of us want different things. Just unfortunately, Europeans and U.S. have to usually cater to the same box art. And then you have like the differences, like in this game, like the box art is just so different than the actual cartridge. Like typically the cartridge label is the same as the box art cover, but in this case, like the cartridge is it's very, very different than the actual box art itself.
Yeah, well, like in Japan, a lot of the cards actually do differ a lot from the cover art. They usually go for something very simplistic on the actual card, which makes it really hard to recognize some games, because like I'm a collector and sometimes I get a box full of Japanese Game Boy games and then I have to look it up by just typing in the DMG code and stuff like that, because I cannot figure out for the love of me what the actual game is by just looking at the cover. And there's a lot of good games that sadly suffer from a very bad cover art. At least on the card itself when it comes to Japanese games.
Yeah, like I got a lot of Japanese games a few months ago, and I reckon the only reason I recognized one out of like the 12 that I got was because I knew who Sailor Moon was. That was the only reason I knew what that game was. I was like, oh, that's Sailor Moon. I know who that is. But the others I had to look up by DMG code.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe the last thing to say about the cover art, this game did get an Asian release. I think AS is Asian, right? And they kind of have the same style as the European and the American box arts. So this one actually has a more Western looking like it's the same cover art basically as the Japanese one, but more Western styled, like more Western cartoony. I mean, but for some reason, and I do not understand the artist in this regard. They actually had more room to place all those enemies on the screen and have a good place for that actual logo. And for some reason, most of the bottom part of the box is just like green background, and they put the actual logo over the top of Bragar in the background. So they they had such a good way to just lower it a little bit and get rid of that green, so you could see all characters and the logo like not over any characters, and they still screwed it up. I don't know how they did that.
I am proud of old school artists. They did such a good job.
Yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, if you're interested in the box cover art, definitely look it up on GameFAQs. They have both of those at least. They don't have a card, however.
So yeah, I guess going into the plot of the game now after that tangent on the box art. Diving into a bit of the plot. This is a prequel to Gargoyle's Quest 1, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Firebrand is training in how do you pronounce that?
Etruria.
Yeah. And this light. Mo, you're a lot better at describing plots than I am. All you.
Sure. Okay, I'll take it from here. So yeah, you're just actually a warrior in your hometown of Etruria, like EBC said. You're going on a training mission, and once you completed your training mission, you come back and you see that your entire village got destroyed by something called the Black Light, and you rush back to your king, who dies on the spot but gives you an item, so you could traverse the chasms, I guess, in well, I don't even know what the actual world is called, but yeah, you just go on an adventure to stop the evil that is coming from the Black Light, and that's caused by Bragar, which is the bad guy for these games. And yeah, this is definitely a prequel to the first one. It's also not the same Firebrand, so this was one of his ancestors. But yeah, like I said before, they all go by a legend of the Red Blaze. So there must have been one even before this Firebrand. But yeah, the plot just goes like that. There's always a red Aramur, as they are called. They're not really gargoyles, they're Aramurs. And yeah, they always have to save the world from Bragar in this game. The same for the first game. It's also Bragar who returns. And the third game I don't remember, actually.
I don't remember the third game at all.
Yeah, I know you're not a red gargoyle in that one though, because you actually change into different forms. You're a blue one, you're a gray one, you're a brown one, I think. So then the legend doesn't really fit anymore, but yeah, whatever.
I think the world that you're looking for is the Ghoul Realm.
Oh yeah, it's just called the Ghoul Realm.
It's the Ghoul Realm.
Yeah, and I think the second one, if I remember correctly, it's either the second one takes place in the human world, or it's just a reference to Ghosts and Goblins or Ghouls and Goblins, where you're trying to actually take over the human world. So,
well, at the start of this is sidetracked now, but the start of Gargoyle's Quest 1, don't humans, because Firebrand is like in a jail cell or in a tower or whatever, and the humans come and visit him and talk to him.
Oh, I don't remember.
So I want to say he's in the human world or some sort of dimension with humans in the first one. But yeah, sidetrack. This one you're only in the Ghoul Realm throughout the entire game. You're just trying to protect your homeland, basically.
Very much so. But that's about all the plot you're gonna get. There are a few people you can talk to throughout the game. They just go on about the legend and what items you need to become stronger. One thing that always has been very interesting to me, in the first game there is a boss slash king called Rushifal. He's in this one as well, together actually with his wife, who you have to visit to get the final power ups of the game before you can take on Brager. But Rushifal is actually a name they had to come up with because his actual name is Lucifer, which is just like a tie into the Bible, of course, to Satan, but they couldn't have that in a Nintendo Game Boy game, so they had to rename him, at least in the American versions, to Rushifal, which is a really weird name. But yeah, he's basically a fire demon, but he has a weird name.
That's interesting, because in the first Ghosts and Goblins, the boss before the final boss is called the Devil, and the final boss is called Lucifer.
Ah, there you go. Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they actually named them that during the NES version. Maybe in the Super Nintendo version they actually named them like that. But yeah, I think devil they can say, because that's not a real, like, anything can be a devil, but Lucifer is just Lucifer. Like, that's the fallen angel, that's the real Satan, whatever, Beelzebub, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah, it's either Satan or Lucifer or something in Ghost and Goblins final boss. Like, I know there's devils and Satans. I know that. So kind of interesting to hear about that. I didn't know about that tidbit at all. So
yeah, it's all I've always wondered, like, all the names in the game when I was playing the first one, there was like really normal, and that one always struck me as being odd. And then I looked it up, and oh yeah, it's supposed to be Lucifer, but they couldn't say that. No, they just made it Rushifal.
That happens.
Yeah, happens a lot.
Yeah, yeah, it does, unfortunately. But general reception of the game itself, we touched base on this earlier. It was okay.
Yeah, it sure, it didn't sell well at all.
Yeah, it does. It's a good game, but it did not sell well at all, like Mo was saying.
Yeah. Which is kind of weird, because, like, if you ask people, like random people, can you name a few games from Game Boy? Gargoyle's Quest 1 is definitely one that always pops up because it's so well known.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, when you ask, like, hey, like, what was the one thing you hated in Ghosts and Goblins, like Firebrand, or like the devil, the flying devil thing in Ghosts and Goblins, like. Okay, well, you know, there's a game like, yeah, Gargoyle's Quest 1, or just Gargoyle's Quest, sorry. I'm like, yeah, like, people know Firebrand, like, people know the series. It's just very interesting that Gargoyle's Quest 2 just didn't take off like his predecessors did.
Yeah, maybe people on the NES really didn't like it. Like, I didn't grow up with that game at all. I grew up with the Game Boy version for sure. I did not even know there were sequels until later in my life. So I played through all of them, and I love all these games. So it's weird that, yeah, maybe at that time there were better games. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, 93, that would have been what, prime time for Super Nintendo, and then Genesis, you know, the 16-bit era. So yeah, I mean, obviously there's gonna be better games out, like Donkey Kong Country, Super Mario World, things like that. But yeah, it's but like I grew up with Ghosts and Goblins on the NES, and I wouldn't play a Gargoyle. Like, I didn't know Gargoyle's Quest existed until probably like 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh wow!
And then, you know, and I the first Gargoyle's Quest I played was the first one back in the Tiny 10. Like, we had a goal was like complete the first dungeon or something like that in our Tiny 10. And I was like, oh, this game is actually really good. I'm just gonna sit and play it. So I played through it one night after practice, and I was like, oh, this is a really good game. And then come to find out that there was a Gargoyle's Quest 2, and I was like, oh well, gotta try and play that. And yeah, like it's really interesting how like my progression of the Ghost and Goblins series happened. Like I knew about all of the mainstay, like the main console Ghost and Goblin games, like NES, Super NES, Genesis.
Yeah.
But I never knew about the handheld ones up until semi recently.
Yeah, isn't it? It's also on Game Boy Color, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I know there's like a Game Boy Advance version of Ghosts and Goblins, like that
Yeah.
Nintendo Classic or whatever it is that they did. Yeah, but yeah. So when we come back, we'll give you guys more thoughts and history that we had with the game, and a little bit of the speed running focus segment that we have, which will be like the quick 30 seconds that we do of it. And yeah,
Yeah, because we actually do not know much about the speedrun of this game in particular. But
all right, guys, catch you in a bit. All right, and we're back. Welcome back, everybody. So, short thoughts and history of the game. I know I gave some of it already in the previous segment, but for me, Gargoyle's Quest 2, good game. Doesn't live up to Gargoyle's Quest 1, though, in my opinion. I honestly think Gargoyle's Quest 1 is a bit better than Gargoyle's Quest 2. Just because of the difficulty curve in the game. The random encounters aside, like I felt like Gargoyle's Quest 1 was a more fleshed out game. Like I felt like Gargoyle's Quest 1 was more thought through before Gargoyle's Quest 2 was. The controls were pretty much the same. Gargoyle's Quest 2 is a bit laggier than Gargoyle's Quest 1. But overall, not a bad game. Like I said before, like I never knew these Gargoyle's Quest game existed until about 6 years ago, and I played Gargoyle's Quest 1 2 years ago, I think, and then this one within the last week. So they're all fairly fresh in my head, but I would say if I had to choose between Gargoyle's Quest 1 and 2, like I would definitely pick 1 over 2. And that even goes for the NES version. Like the NES version of GQ2 and GQ of Game Boy as well, like they're the same. And I remember my NES playthrough of Gargoyle's Quest 2 very vividly. And yeah, I still feel the same. Like I'd rather play Gargoyle's Quest 1 on Game Boy over both of them.
All right. Well, I grew up with the first game. It was something I didn't have a copy myself, but my cousin had, so I played it constantly. I immediately fell in love with that game. It was really cool. It was a little bit different than all the normal platforming games I usually play, like Super Mario Land or like Kirby's Dream Land or stuff like that. This had the RPG elements in it. Which was something I wasn't familiar with yet. It's not until I think Pokemon that I actually knew what a JRPG was, or so I did not know what an RPG was. So it was cool to see, to have like a protagonist that got stronger. When you made progress in the game, and it was also fun to just walk around like the overworld and look for secrets and stuff like that. So that's something that I really love about games nowadays. I always go for a game where I have to like search around for stuff and find secrets here and there. That's something I really like to do, and I guess maybe this inspired me to go that way with what I actually do love about games the most. Gargoyle's Quest 2, I did not know about it, especially not the Game Boy version, like I said earlier. Also not the NES version, because I never had one when I grew up. So I think when I was 16 or something, I got more into looking at the libraries of other gaming systems, and I probably picked it up then, but didn't really dive into it much until the recent years, where I've played through most of those games a couple of times so far. Which one is my favorite? It's really hard to say, actually. I'm not really sure. I do not prefer 1 over 2 or 2 over 1. I think they both have like their own merits to be fun. Like the second one is a little bit easier. I think the bosses are better. I think the dungeons are a little bit more well done than in the first one. Then again, the first one has, yeah, I know, I grew up with it, so it has that nostalgia factor for sure. But yeah, I don't know. For me, both those games are equal. Sadly, I do not remember the third one. I do have a copy here that I know of. I should play it again. I know I liked it. I know it was also a strange one because you can finish that game in 10 minutes if you just go to the final boss immediately from the start, and then you get the bad ending, but then you literally just have played 5% of the game or something. So, yeah, I think all 3 of them are definitely great games to check out, and I'm kind of hoping they will bring back this series at one point, because I would love to see a new one.
Yeah, I would love a collection. Like even if it's just like a re-release of the entire series. Just I would like to see even that emerge, honestly. I'm not asking for a new Gargoyle's Quest or a new a new Ghost and Goblins, but just give me like a re-release like you're doing with Mega Man Capcom. Just give me something.
Yeah, you're very good at re-releasing the same games over and over and over again. So just do this one as well. You will definitely make a lot of people happy.
Legacy Collection 433, Mega Man 1 through 10. All right.
Again, yeah, with some extra challenges.
I love Mega Man, by the way, audience, but man, Capcom.
Yeah, I love Mega Man as well, for sure. But yeah, and freaking release physical copies in Europe, because
I didn't even know you guys didn't get physical copies.
Yeah,
like I just go to GameStop and like they have a wall of them, and I'm like, oh, all right. Yeah, I didn't know you guys weren't getting physical copies.
Yeah, no, like we can order them from Amazon.com, of course, but it's just really a really stupid idea just to release physicals in one part of the world and not the other.
Yeah, that is bizarre. If it wasn't so expensive to send stuff to you, I'd send you a copy.
Yeah. Yeah, bad marketing decision there, Capcom. I don't know what's up with you.
yeah, Capcom. I'm gonna need you to stop making Street Fighter games and focus on other things. But the speedrunning section that we have, like we don't have much in this section.
Yeah,
Roguelink's the legend of Gargoyle's Quest for Game Boy. I believe he has a world record in 1 and 2 for Game Boy. I couldn't tell you what the times are because I actually can't find Gargoyle's Quest Game Boy on speedrun.com.
I'll give it a try.
I can find the NES version, which I think White Hat might have the record for, but I can't find the Game Boy version at all. Yeah, I mean, with no random encounters in Gargoyle's Quest 2, like, it makes a speedrun a lot, I guess, I don't want to say easier, but it makes it more fun, because you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm going to take 4 steps here, get a random encounter in, like, oh, I've already hit 6 random encounters before the first town, I'm going to reset because I got bad luck. Like, I've played games with luck involved, and they're not fun. Like I play Kirby's Dream Land. I know all about it. Like there's no step counter that we know of, and for Gargoyle's Quest 1, like there's none of that I'm aware of anyway. So it's just all roll the dice whether or not you're gonna get into a fight or not. So with Gargoyle's Quest 2, like you have that equation taken out of the speedrun altogether. Like Mo was saying, the dungeons are a bit more linear, like they're easier to maneuver through. So you have the movement variable to you now, where like it's easier to move through things. So now movement optimization is going to be a heavier role to play in this game. So
I did find the times for the Game Boy version at least. There's two categories. There's the any percent category and there's the all collectibles category. What can I say about the difference between those two? The all collectibles, like the 2 extra weapons, are totally unnecessary to get, and there's also a health potion that you can make by doing 2 optional bosses, I believe, or 1 optional boss and 1 optional dungeon. Those are also in the NES version. But yeah, those are, like I said, completely optional. So the all collectibles run goes towards getting all of those. The any percent one just goes with what you get normally when you progress through the game. And the record for any percent is indeed by Roguelink. It's 29 minutes and 28 seconds. And the all collectibles one is also by Roguelink. It's 35 minutes 27 seconds. But there is another runner for that one, Mate Walkhurt. Mate Walkhurt. Yeah, I don't know what. Okay, but that's 36 minutes 22 seconds. So pretty close together. It's like 1 minute apart from each other.
Yeah. That's a lengthy run for a Game Boy game.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's no Pokemon or Zelda, but I mean, that's a lengthy run for a Game Boy game.
Yeah.
I'll pass. I like my 10-minute games.
Yeah, I tried both of them out once, but I gave up pretty quickly. They're just too long for me.
Yeah. I tried learning Gargoyle's Quest 1, and the random encounters ruined it for me. I'm like, never again will I try to learn the speedrun of Gargoyle's Quest 1 unless we can figure out step manipulation.
Yeah. I would say if you're interested in speedrunning these games, try the second one. One, because not a lot of people run it. It's just it's just a better game for speedrunning because of no RNG, and you can always just watch the NES version, which gets a lot more love for sure. But it's really the same game. So.
It's very much the same game, just NES has color. The Game Boy version is whatever color you want to play it on. It's the Super Game Boy 2. Don't use Super Game Boy 1.
No, do not. Please do not. Also, do not move. Okay. Do not use any not approved emulators, of course, because we have been getting a lot of questions in the Game Boy speedrun community about some very questionable emulators.
Well, there's this like new emulator thing that's like Steam, but for emulators. And at its core, like the Game Boy one at its core runs on Gambit, which is an approved emulator, but since it's like tied in with all these other things, like does it run the game accurately? Like how does it actually run the actual Game Boy game with all of this other stuff, assorted with it? Like just because it has the same core base to it doesn't mean that it's going to be accurate type deal. But like BGB, Gambit, and BizHawk, like we know those 3 off the get go are fine. Like there's been a lot of tests, there's been a lot of research into those, and we know like, hey, like these ones run accurately fine. But like there's a lot of new like emulator things coming up, or just like, hey, I have a RetroPie, can I use my RetroPie? Well, it runs off the Gambit core, but it's actually faster or slower. I can't remember what the diagnosis was on that, but I was just like, so it's just like there's a lot of things like that coming. Like, hey, I have a Retron. Hey, I have a RetroPie. Hey, I have this. Like, there's a lot of like new things. Hey, I have an emulator on my phone. Okay, now we're getting into phone emulation. There's just a lot of weird emulator things coming at us right now that either needs to be deeper researched, or if we have the research, we just need to like put that knowledge out, say like, hey, like we've done the research on this. This is faster. This is slower. This is fine, etc. So there's a lot of weirdness right now with the retro community, just in general when it comes to emulation. So
yeah, if you need more information, you can always visit the website we have for it, which is gbrunners.com. All of the information we know is on there. We need to really redo that website because it's a train wreck, but that's something for in the future. And you can always, of course, ask us for an invite for the actual Game Boy speedrunning Discord. We have a technical stuff channel where a lot of those things get discussed, and then you get the answers from the people who actually know how to test everything properly. So you always get an answer pretty quickly there.
Yeah. But yeah. With that, we're going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some community events, viewer questions, and the close off. See you guys in a bit. Everybody, so let's dive right into community events.
All right.
First one that comes to mind for me is Big Bad Gameathon, which is September 14th, I believe.
Yeah, that's still on time then.
That's a month away. Yeah, that's the one that pops in my head right away for most recent events. There's another one happening. It might be happening now, which you guys will miss when this podcast comes out. But it's like Run to Rumble, Rumble to Run, RTR, I think it is.
No, I don't know that one.
I didn't know about it either, but I saw a lot of friends like join it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have no idea. Like I don't have any community events myself, but as I said at the start of the podcast, we are working on Tiny 10.8, and as per usual, that will probably happen in November, the second or the third week of November. As soon as the list is ready, which is probably going to be in September, we will do a reveal stream on the Monochrome City Twitch channel, of course, which usually is a video containing all the speedruns, as far as there are, because we have some games that's like literally are new games that are never been speedrun before, so it's gonna be interesting. But yeah, once we have that set up, we will release it completely, and then you guys have like 2 months to train for it, so that's always good.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. I found some events that we got going on here. So we got the UK Speedrunning Marathon, the UKSM, apparently.
All right.
That's August 17th. I don't know much about that marathon at all. So there might be some Game Boy games in there. There might not be.
I have no idea either.
There's a Metroid Marathon happening on the 17th of August as well. So maybe there's a Metroid 2 run in there you guys can check out.
That would be cool.
That'd be awesome.
That's a really cool game and a really cool speedrun.
Yeah. And then there's the I don't know how to pronounce this word, but the Benelux Speedrunner Gathering?
Benelux. Okay. It's Belgium, Dutchland. I call it Dutchland. But yeah, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. So Benelux.
Okay, so Benelux, yeah. Speedrunner Gathering, BSG, is happening on, let's see here, August 18th. Looks like they have a pretty nice little schedule they got going here. They got Link's Awakening DX. Let's see what else. Pokemon Gold and Silver, Red and Blue. Of course, they're gonna have Pokemon games in there. Dr. Mario. I don't know if that's NES or Game Boy. I'd assume NES. But it looks like they have a few games. So they have Hello Kitty Roller Rescue. That's a super good game. They have Nobo. Nobo is on there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so Nobo is on the 22nd. So that's cool. Nobo. They have Nobo, Wand of Gamelon, Kirby's Dream Land, Kirby's Amazing Mirror. Like, there's a lot of Game Boy games happening in this marathon, so definitely check out that one for sure.
Yeah.
I know Wand of Gamelon's not Game Boy.
But it's still worth checking out anyways.
So yeah. That's what we got for events. If you're in our Discord, we have a Discord. You'll hear all about that in a second. But if you're in our Discord, I'm trying to get an event bot programmed and running for us, so we actually have an event So the event channel is not just me finding things and typing it in. So
Yeah. Good luck with that. I can't help you with that at all.
Trying. Might have to recruit legs.
Yeah, my knowledge with coding is very, very bad, so I can never figure stuff out like that.
So viewer questions.
Well, I don't think we have viewer questions. Like, the only question that we had for this episode was my own question: where in the world is the 8 heart container? So we already
And
touched
no one
on
knows.
that one.
No one knows.
No one knows.
I guess pianist man asked if he was missing out on the lore.
Yeah.
He never played the original Gargoyle's quest. So to answer that question, no, you are actually enhancing your lore for when you go to play Gargoyle's Quest 1.
I guess,
Since this
even
is a
though they're
prequel.
so loosely tied to each other, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. You're not missing out on any very intricate details you would need.
You gotta respect the lore.
Yes.
Man. All right. You always play the games in chronological order, starting with Zelda. Do the Zelda games in chronological order, and it'll all make sense.
It sure does, yeah. Just like Metal Gear. Just play that chronologically, makes all the sense in the world. And after that, just do Kingdom Hearts.
No one can follow that story. Let's just be fair.
I have to look it up constantly when I'm playing those games because I'm like, wait, what happened again? Okay.
Why is Donald dead for the 13th time?
Yeah, 13? I think we're almost at 200 now. Yeah, for people who don't know, whenever I play Kingdom Hearts on stream, I have a counter for whatever Donald dies. So. he literally
it's
died.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, he died like 35 times in a single boss fight once, and I couldn't even keep up with it anymore. Amazing.
Kingdom Hearts 3, though, comes out within like 6 months or whatever, man. Just imagine all that Donald's dying in high def now.
Oh, that's gonna be so great. I'm very excited for that. Okay, I guess, yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. Like, we don't have much more to say. At least I don't. Maybe you have something random to say, EBC.
Not really. Oh, I guess I do want to touch base. So, like, if you are a collector of this game and wanting a copy of Gargoyle's Quest 2, let me just look it up quick. I had it open. I closed it because I'm stupid. The NES copy of this game, you're looking at about 80 to $100 for the NES version of this game, and the Game Boy version. Oops, you gotta spell Game Boy on eBay. Is about 30, 20 to $30. I got really lucky with my copy. I got mine for like $15. I got super lucky with mine. But I know on eBay they do a lot of like buy 1 and 2 together deals because that's how eBay is. Like 1 and 2 together is about $40 looking at eBay right now. But the Game Boy version is definitely the more cheaper version if you were wanting to play this game. Like we've said a million times earlier, the Game Boy version and the NES version are very much the same. Maybe a couple differences aside here and there, but they're very similar to one another. So if you wanted an actual cart, if you wanted to play the game on an actual cart, dive in for the Game Boy one. If you wanted to splurge the extra $40-$50, and you're gonna be looking for that for the NES version. So
yeah, just keep in mind that of course it's in Japanese, so if you get stuck, it will be a lot harder to actually figure out where to go, even though it's not that hard to figure it out.
Right, yeah, it's in Japanese, so just be ready for that.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything we have to say about this game and anything else we touched upon during this episode. Like always, if you have any thoughts and suggestions, you can always contact us through our email, which is, I don't remember, which is tigbpodcast@gmail.com. So that's one way to go. You can always, of course, get in contact with us through our Discord. We will, of course, place a link to that. I think I already did actually on our SoundCloud. I attached a link to our Discord on it. And
nice.
we also kind of have a website at this point. We have some issues with it. So there's two ways you can visit it. Either you go to .gbrunners.com, or you go to gbrunners.com/TIGB. And something can happen. Either you go to a page where you just say "see soon." That is not the good one, but it's different for a lot of people, and we can't figure out what the hell is actually going on.
That's the bad timeline.
Yeah, but yeah, if you go to the other one, you can actually see the actual website. The newest episode is always on there. There's some bios about me, about EBC, and about our producer Lex, of course, and links to all of our social media stuff. So that's probably the easiest way to really get in contact with any of us.
Yeah, try to make it easy for you guys. For those who want to ask questions, be involved, chat, hang out with us, do whatever it is that you guys do on the internet. We try to make it easy for you. So yeah, with that, you can find me. I'm eBloodyCandy. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube at eBloodyCandy. Where can they find you, Mo?
They can find me on Twitter. That's at Nostalgamia. You can find me on Twitch, which is /Moelle. You can find me on the YouTubes, which is also /Moelle, and that's pretty much it because I don't use anything else.
Moelle, for those of you that are new listening, is Moelleuh.
Yes. Yeah, indeed.
You spell it differently in Discord, so I have to guess the last two all the time.
Yeah, it's the last two are just there because I can't get the actual one that I want. So yeah, that's an issue.
So yeah, next time on This Is Game Boy, we play something extremely adorable.
Oh yeah, very fluffy. And it's not Kirby. It's not Kirby.
Yeah, when I was looking up labels and stuff for this game and box art, Rogue Link's face was just all over Google for this.